Hi, and welcome back to Relate and Illuminate episode 2 with Lisa Mills, my good friend and expert on filmmaking. And so this second part is really about the industry and where it's going.
Well, I don't know that anybody could call themselves an expert on filmmaking in this era, because we're in an era of enormous change. Everything is changing about content creation and entertainment programming now, from the way that it's being made to the way that it's being distributed to the way audiences are viewing it on these different platforms. So don't call me an expert, call me just somebody who's really curious and trying to keep up with it all. And one of the ways I'm trying to keep up with it is I've assigned my students to write about it this term, and I'm reading all of their papers right now. And I can perceive through the research that they've done in this class a lot of anxiety. And I feel bad for them because they're entering the film and entertainment business at a time of great transition. And that can be really exciting, but can also be really scary.
Scary, absolutely.
You know, you can look back over the decades of whenever a new technology was introduced, from soundies after silent films to television to cable and streaming. You know, we've just come out of the streaming wars, and now we're facing AI. And every time we have a new technology like this, it really upends the industry and the people that are trying to work in it. And then audiences get confused. Well, where am I supposed to see my favorite team play this weekend? You know, so it's a lot of turmoil right now.
Okay, well, I'll just call you a scholar.
Oh, well, I don't know about that either, but
well,
thank you.
Because of teaching, she has to do a lot of research, and she's good at it. So I wanted to consult her.
What questions do you have?
Yeah, so the question is, well, first of all, I've seen technology in some films presently. And again, I've said you can't believe what you see because there's so much effects and different things. But you wonder how much is AI created. You know, you wonder if do you think it's going to limit actors' work, because they can basically, you know, replace an actor with a, you know, look-alike AI-created person.
Well, you can bet that unions and attorneys are very busy right now trying to protect the human being actors from this happening. And I actually have a research paper that I'm reading right now that students have written specifically about how actors are taking steps to protect their image, their likeness, and their voice from being used without their permission. Now, we know in the case of the late Val Kilmer that his estate gave permission for his likeness to be reproduced in a movie that he had already signed off on. And even in Sinners, you know, when you had Michael Jordan playing the twins, apparently they used a stand-in, and then they superimposed Michael Jordan's face over the stand-in. So Michael Jordan was fully aware of that. So I believe that the actors understand that technology is here, and what's important is for them to have control over how their likenesses are used. So I'm sure that the lawyers are working overtime on that. What really worries me the most is the writers, what's going to happen to writing. And then we already know that in post-production, AI has been used for several years in visual effects. So, you know, when it's being used as a creative tool, it's like any other tool that's ever come along. The people that learn how to use those tools are going to get the jobs, and they're going to excel. So the onus is going to be on the worker to figure that out. But the writers, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about them, and they've got their lawyers working now too.
Yeah. So you made a good point, really good point about AI, and that it's not new in terms of when you ask AI to do something. It's pulling from all these areas, but it's not new information.
No, the large learning models are only going to send back to you what they find that's already out there in the databases. So, a lot of it is going to have to do with the skill of the prompt that you give to the AI engine. And everybody has to keep in mind that every time they go into these AI large learning models, that their data is collected. So everybody's got to make sure that they read those terms, and protect themselves from what they're putting in there. But what you're putting in there is just going to go and find what's already out there and regurgitate that back to you. So I don't see it as being particularly innovative in bringing in new ideas or creativity. It's just going to restructure what's already out there. Now, when it comes to medicine, or other fields, other professions, we might have, more hope for those because maybe nobody's put this chemical with that chemical together before, and you put a prompt into AI and it thinks, well, maybe if you put these two chemicals together, you get a great vaccine to prevent a disease. But when it comes to creating entertainment and storytelling, I don't know how much new AI is going to provide. Only humans can really tell stories that are entertaining. You can send a story into AI and get feedback on whether or not it thinks people would like that story. And you can use AI to rehearse a pitch for your new series. But it's not really going to give you any new ideas. It's just going to pull from what's already out there. Everybody needs to understand that.
Yeah. So it's going to change pre-production, production, post-production is huge. It's already being used.
Distribution, and then also what audiences see. Because you can believe that these tech companies that own these studios are also going to be using these large learning models to see, where the eyeballs are going. And what we've seen with social media is that it's like a feedback loop. It just continues to put into your feed what you've already liked, okay? So then we're already seeing, if you take a look at what comes into your Netflix feed or your Amazon feed, it just continues to feed you more of what you've already watched. And that's gonna become extreme with the use of AI data, the more that is collected.
It waters down our intelligence, really.
And it also sends us into boxes.
Yeah.
You're in your box watching what's on your box. I'm over here watching what's on my box. So back in the days when we had collective TV, like Seinfeld, everybody talks about the episode of Seinfeld, on Friday morning at the water cooler.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to reduce that to a certain extent because we're all sort of in our own areas watching whatever gets fed to us.
Yeah. So don't like all your movies and content because it'll just keep feeding you the same thing.
Yeah, go into your search engine and type in different things in your search engine and see what comes up rather than just watching what gets sent to you.
Right. There's a film, Mercy, with Chris Pratt, and it's high technology, even though there's some live action in there, but most of it is all created.
Visual effects,
all created digitally. But it's got a really interesting story that, it could be. I've always thought films have this way of predicting the future sometimes.
Well,
what do you think about
I think they certainly can. I think artists have a certain insight into humanity, and you think about humanity, universal human themes in science fiction, in horror. I'm glad you brought up Mercy because I think it has a lot to say about our surveillance culture right now.
Yeah.
That is getting YouTube actually gets more eyeballs than anything else right now. A lot of people do not realize how high the viewership is on YouTube now.
Yeah.
It's much, much higher than Netflix or Amazon or any of the traditional networks.
Right.
People are watching stuff on YouTube. They're watching webcams on YouTube. One of my favorite things to check in the morning is, of course, Jackie and Shadow, the eagles of Big Bear Lake that are raising their eaglets.
Yeah.
You know, and so Mercy, I think, really tapped into this new culture of hidden cameras everywhere and put together a story based, you know, all of that. I mean, there was him in the chair, you know, in the studio, and there was the AI bot, and then all of the rest of the movie, almost all of it was surveillance video.
Right, right. And so it also brings to mind, or brings to light, a new way of law, a new way of practicing law and how that's going to work. And, you know, people are actually considered guilty until proven innocent, without telling you too much, but it's really interesting.
Yeah, it does explore that aspect of our Constitution, which seems to be being chipped away from.
Yeah, not just challenged, but really ask Jimmy Kimmel about free speech.
Right. Well, that's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other. It is.
But I mean, AI is, I know that there's a lot of hope surrounding it, just as there was stem cell therapy.
Yeah.
But we've never really seen the gains, a lot of the gains that were promised with stem cell therapy. So let's just hold it in check. We're going to have to see where it takes us in terms of job elimination, in terms of creativity, whether or not it's really going to help us innovate, or whether or not the capitalists are going to co-opt it like they do so many new technologies and just use it for profit, for their gain.
That is such a good point.
Well, there are Saudi interests that are right now maneuvering to try to take a large chunk of American media. So we'll have to see how that all works out.
Yeah, but we're talking money. That's the goal. Greed.
Yes.
You know, unfortunately. But anything else you want to say about this?
Check in with me in 6 months and we'll see where it all is then.
I know, it's changing, and network television is dying except for sports broadcasting. I think that'll still be around because it's relatively cheap to produce, and we already know there's a huge audience.
Yeah, although the rights are certainly expensive, the networks, the traditional networks, know how to do it well.
Yeah.
And that is an audience that they can count on. Everybody's going to tune in to see their teams. But whether or not the traditional networks can hold on to these expensive licenses remains to be seen. And I think a lot of us, you know, on the weekends are looking on our phone, well, where do I find my favorite team? Is it on YouTube TV? Is it on Amazon? Is it on Netflix? Or do I go back to CBS or Fox or NBC? Or, you know, where am I going to go to find my team? And I think that that's sort of a frontier right now where you see a lot of jockeying for position, a lot of competition for these rights, you know, that people want to try to pick up on.
And what a coup for Amazon and these other places to get these, because it's been monopolized by the networks.
Well, the big tech has the money, and they will pay the money to get what it is they want, what they think will make them more money. So these traditional studios alone don't have money to compete, so you're seeing them being swallowed up by technology companies, which really don't have the tradition of working with creatives.
Right.
You know, they're computer companies originally.
Right.
Or shopping companies. And so, you know, it's a very interesting dynamic now when you see, you know, the traditional content creators and entertainment companies being swallowed up by these tech companies. And what
billionaires and
yes.
whatever. And unfortunately, it's like when newspapers, everybody was, you know, everybody was being bought up by one publisher and one
investment company.
And that's all watered down news. You know, there's not the objectivity of a lot of different input. So,
yeah, the bottom line is when you have fewer gatekeepers, when you have fewer entities controlling media, controlling the message, fewer of them, then you're not going to get as broad a spectrum
Right.
of information or entertainment. And so that's really where these antitrust laws were supposed to protect the American public from this.
Right.
But then a lot of these battles wind up in court, and then you're at the mercy of whatever the court decides.
Yeah. But it waters down our choices. If, you know, one big tech company owns, you know, all the studios and eventually, who knows, they could, or, you know, many of them, then there's, you know, it gets watered down. So
Regulation can be a good thing.
yeah, absolutely. But anyway, so that's our take, and I'm sure thankful for you to share your knowledge. And
We are gaining new knowledge about all of it every day.
yeah, what time is it? It's changing right now.
That's right.
But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Look for us on YouTube. There you go. You can watch YouTube again. On YouTube, you just type in Relate and Illuminate, and you'll find us. Thanks again. Bye. Thank you for joining.